Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with Marvin Kaplan, who died recently at the age of 89. Marvin Kaplan was a nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn, and being from Brooklyn helped propel him in his subsequent career. He wanted to be a playwright. He was teaching Brooklyn College. Then he moved out to Southern California. He got involved with Charlie Chaplin's Circle Theater out there, and he was seen by Katharine Hepburn, who heard that Brooklyn accent and recommended him to George Cukor, and he got a small role in Adam's Rib in 1949. He did some television, some theater, but he got his big break in 1961. On television in the early 60s, ABC was the third network, and they were trying out primetime cartoons. So you had the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and this one, Top Cat, which was sort of a Sergeant Bilko performed by animated cats in the alleys of New York.
Top Cat, the most effectual Top Cat, whose intellectual close friends get to call him TC, providing its with dignity. Top Cat, the indisputable leader of the gang. He's the boss, he's a bit, he's a championship, he's a house tip-top, Top Cat.
Top Cat, the Bilko character, was voiced by Arnold Stang, another nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn who also did the Chunky Candy Bar commercials. And Marvin Kaplan was the voice of one of his main club members, Choo Choo.
I think I'm gonna...
Knock it off, George, or they'll knock us off.
Thanks, TC. I'm okay now. You mean it, TC? You mean it? Boy, that's swell.
Now, when I ring the doorbell, everybody out of sight. You got it?
We got it, TC.
Top Cat didn't last too long, but after that, Marvin Kaplan and Arnold Stang were reunited in Stanley Kramer's famous comedy, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Big slapstick stuff that had all the major comedians of the day. Unfortunately, was released right around the time that John Kennedy was killed, so it never got the box office that they thought it would get. Marvin Kaplan got the role that was initially destined for Jackie Mason, but he and Arnold Stang were gas station attendants in the scene where they get beat up and the gas station gets destroyed by Jonathan Winters, whose podcast we've done. Marvin Kaplan said later in life that the only two geniuses that he ever worked with were Charlie Chaplin and Jonathan Winters. The scene starts out with another nice Jewish boy from Brooklyn, Phil Silvers.
Very good. I'm proud of you, boy.
I never saw anything. Hey, how many people has he killed?
There'll be more, but this time up until the boys in the white jackets get you. I'm proud of you, boys. You did a real good job. Very good. Look me up. I'm in the book, Dr. Zillman.
I'll kill that dirty, rotten bum. I get my hands on him. What's the matter? How come I'm all tied up like this?
Now listen, you just sit there and everything will be all right.
Yeah, a couple of friends are going to come and take good care of
What
you.
friends? What are you talking about? Now listen, what's the big idea? Get this stuff off me. Turn me loose.
Now take it easy, pal, because you've been sick.
Who's been sick? And where's that bum with the glasses, huh? Get this stuff off of me.
Watch him, Ray, watch him!
I'm warning you. I'm going to have to hit you again.
Oh, my arm! You broke my arm! He's going nuts! He's nuts! He's really nuts!
Marvin Kaplan was one of the last surviving cast members from that movie, and he later went on to a recurring role in the sitcom Alice. He's a nice guy and did a lot for performers out in Southern California. We're going to move on now to Solomon Krakowski, a.k.a. Stephen Hill, and Stephen Hill died recently at the age of 94. Another nice Jewish boy. He was from Seattle, and he had a very interesting acting career. He was good-looking and extremely talented, and he was selected for the Actors Workshop by Stella Adler. In fact, it was said his competition was Marlon Brando, who was 2 years younger. And in some circles, he was compared favorably with Brando. They both performed in the mid-40s in Ben Hecht's stage play to raise money for Israel. Brando gravitated towards the theater and the movies. Stephen Hill gravitated more towards the theater and went into television in the 50s. He did a couple of nice turns in Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He did a good role as Legs Diamond in The Untouchables, and while he didn't do movies, it looked like his career would take off with one of the most talked about television shows of 1966. He was the group leader of the Impossible Missions Force for the original Mission Impossible. there was Good Morning, Mr. Phelps and Peter Graves, there was Good Morning, Mr. Briggs and Stephen Hill.
Hello.
I'm looking for a special recording, collector series.
Well, I don't know. We have some record players and stuff.
I'll take care of the gentleman, Susie. Would you give me last week's invoices, please? Exactly what recording were you looking for?
Vaughan in G by Ernest Vaughan and the Pan Symphonic Orchestra, 1963.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Briggs. General Rio Dominguez, the dictator of Santa Costa.
And on and on and on. Well, the problem was that Stephen Hill was an Orthodox Jew. He refused to work on the Sabbath. He didn't do a couple of the stunts they wanted him to do. He was generally difficult on the set, according to some people. And they canned him after the first season, and that's when they got Peter Graves. For a guy who was a rival of Brando 20 years before, Stephen Hill was essentially out of show business for more than a decade. He came back in the 80s to do some movies, but he finally got his redemption as District Attorney Adam Schiff in Dick Wolf's long-running television series Law and Order.
Started with a killing, ending with an execution. You got what you wanted. Take the rest of the week off. It's Friday, Adam. So it is. See you Monday.
His character was based on the real-life New York District Attorney Robert Morgenthau, who used to come and see him in the set, said, "I'll take the job for $25,000 an episode." And Stephen Hill played the character for over 10 years. Actually, I always thought his character was a little overwritten and cliche-ish, but I'm definitely in the minority in that opinion. We're going to move on now to Lieutenant Jeremiah O'Keefe, who died recently at the age of 93. He was a World War II flying ace, shot down 7 planes. I initially said 12 on the original podcast. It was a mistake. I want to apologize to his family. Most notably in a dogfight over Okinawa as part of the Death Rattler Squadron in the Navy right after Pearl Harbor. And for his service, he was awarded the Air Medal, the Navy Cross, and the Distinguished Flying Cross. In 2015, he was also awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian award given by Congress. He had a notable post-war career also. He became the mayor of Biloxi, Mississippi. He was instrumental in John F. Kennedy's 1960 presidential campaign, and he was a longtime battler against segregation in Mississippi. Here's NBC Today on Lieutenant Jeremiah O'Keefe.
We highlight another life well lived. 18-year-old Jeremiah O'Keefe enlisted in the United States Navy when he heard the news of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. Not long after, he was commissioned a lieutenant in the Marine Corps, joining a new squadron nicknamed the Death Rattlers. Their first assignment was to protect American troop and supply ships in Okinawa. On April 22, 1945, 80 kamikaze pilots attacked. Lieutenant O'Keefe and his squad engaged the Japanese planes in a day of dogfights. O'Keefe took out 5 kamikazes and 2 more later that week. He was awarded the Air Medal, the Navy Cross, and the Distinguished Flying Cross for his efforts. When he got home from the war, Jeremiah rejoined his childhood sweetheart and wife, Annette, and got into the family business at O'Keefe Funeral Home in Biloxi, Mississippi. In 1959, he ran for the state legislature and won. He chaired John F. Kennedy's 1960 presidential campaign for southern Mississippi. In 1973, he was elected mayor of Biloxi, a position he held for 8 years. O'Keefe spent much of his adult life fighting segregation. As mayor, he took on the Ku Klux Klan, denying them permits to parade through Biloxi. For that, he received death threats and a burning cross on his front lawn. Jeremiah O'Keefe, ace fighter pilot in World War II and champion of equal rights in America, died this week at the age of 93.
Lieutenant O'Keefe, we thank you for your service. We cannot begin to repay what we owe you. We're going to close tonight with our feature, Toots Thielemans, who died recently at the age of 94. Probably most American children don't know who he is, but every American child has heard him. Yeah, the harmonica, that Sesame Street theme, that was played by Toots Thielemans. And I think it's safe to say that Toots Thielemans was the greatest jazz harmonica player who ever lived. Toots Thielemans was Belgian, born in Brussels. He came to New York when jazz was really picking up. There weren't that many guys who could play jazz harmonica, and there was no one who could play like him. In 1950, he toured with Benny Goodman's European band, and then he went on to play with Charlie Parker's bebop band that featured Miles Davis. After that, he played with George Shearing's quintet. We did the George Shearing podcast. He recorded with just about everybody, Quincy Jones, Paul Simon, and he did a lot of solo stuff. Here he is with Charlie Chaplin's movie theme Smile. In the early 60s, he was shuttling between the United States and Sweden, and he had an international hit with his jazz waltz blues set. The original on that was done by guitar and whistling, which he was also very adept at. Here he does a nice little turn with Miss Peggy Lee on Making Whoopee.
Would you play a song on the harmonica and I'll interpret for you?
Very dangerous.
No. Oh, that's bad. Another bride, another June, another sunny honeymoon, another season, another reason.
How about a little Toots Thielemans playing Duke Ellington's Sophisticated Lady? Toots Thielemans also did movie themes, and one of my favorite movie themes that he did a take on was the theme from The Summer of '42. Wasn't a great movie. It had two things going for it: Jennifer O'Neill without a lot of her clothes on, and the theme, which was the best thing about the movie, and here's Toots Thielemans' take on it. Yeah, I gotta tell you, I could listen to Toots Thielemans all day. In 2009, the National Endowment for the Arts made him a jazz master, and he was still playing into his 90s. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps, and there is only one theme we can close with for Toots Thielemans. As I said, he did movie themes, and I'm going to close with what might be the best performance of a movie theme ever, and it's certainly one of my favorites. It was written for the 1969 Oscar winner Midnight Cowboy by John Barry, whose podcast we've also done, and Toots Thielemans' performance lends so much to the movie.